ready.
Hey everybody, Nate Joma here, Space Coast Real Estate Spotlight. Today, my guest is Jen Kane with Denovo Realty, and we're going to be talking about a situation where you are a buyer that is selling and trying to buy simultaneously or around the same time. Stay tuned. We will be right back. All right. What did you think about that, Jen?
I like the intro. I told you already. I feel like maybe you could be in the DJ world as a radio announcer if this whole lending thing doesn't work out. Anyway, hey, hi everybody. Happy Friday. Is it Friday? What? No, not yet.
It's Thursday. It's almost Friday. So we are recording this on a Thursday, almost Friday. So Jen, you are a top real estate agent here on the Space Coast, and you've been in situations, I'm sure, where you have a buyer that is under contract or going under contract, ready to buy a house, but they have a sales contingency, and one thing has to happen before the other. So talk about some of the ways that you approach that as a real estate agent.
All right, so basically I'm going to start with one of the funny things is a lot of people come to me and say, hey, I want to buy a house. Because, there's a lot of people over 50 and they have these really big houses they raised their humans in and they busted their butt and all the things. And now they're like, why am I cleaning 3 bathrooms? And I'm like, I don't know why you're cleaning 3 bathrooms. But they want to look at the houses first before they list theirs. And I'm like, that's not how we do it at all. So basically, you want to meet with your realtor. Hopefully that would be me. And sit down and really look at your community and look at your market and understand the market. I explain it to my sellers all the time because, everybody wants this much, but reality is going to be somewhere right here in the middle. And then you have to get your home ready and prep it for sale. And that's a whole project in and of itself from, listing videos, because I like listing videos. I like the story behind the house. And I think it draws attention if you add, I've ridden 4-wheelers and pretty soon I want to ride a jet ski on a listing video. And I think the more crazy you can be, the more people that will look at it. And then of course, you have to go through the house and systematically make that house look as plain as vanilla as possible. Like, I don't want to see the wedding picture. That's not going to bring buyers into your home and say, I want to live here. You have to make it a blank canvas for them. And then you got to get your house on the MLS. And then once you're at the position when you're on the MLS, then we can start honing in because everybody's on Zillow and Zillow's like always wrong. I have huge issues with Zillow. That's just a terrible place. But then you can go and you can take your time and you can look around and you can start feeling out because everybody has an idea of where they want to be. So because you have to remember when you're selling and you're buying at the same time, you've got double everything. Double contingencies, double inspections. You've got appraisal on your house we have to handle, appraisal on the new property. So it is a lot. One of the things that I like to do for everyone is try to give them a realistic expectation, especially in this changing market that we're in right now. And everyone wants, like I said, this much for their house, but reality is what a buyer is willing to pay for your house is actually what the house is going to be sold for. That's really what it comes down to, in essence, whether our rates are 8%, 6%, wherever they are on the board.
Right.
And I just help my clients with even things as simple as when is the moving truck coming? Everyone loves the moving truck on closing day. No, don't do that because at the end of the day, and I've been there, I have the final walkthrough going on for the buyers of their existing property while they're moving the furniture out. The house isn't going to be cleaned in time. And then we're not, nothing's really going as smoothly as one would like it to go.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a lot. It can be done. I love doing it. And that's one of the things I specialize in is selling properties and then, putting people into the homes that are going to really be their forever homes. And I haven't had a homeless person yet, I'm happy to say, and not an expired.
Nobody's been homeless yet, so success. That's wonderful.
I'm all about do not be in or on the beach in a box is my goal. But with that being said, yeah, there's just a lot of things that happen and people have to have a realistic expectation of what that's going to look like. Take a deep breath. lock and load your seatbelt because it's going to be a journey. And hopefully, if you have the right realtor, it's going to be a stress-free journey.
Right.
But again, one of my main things is everyone wants to find the replacement home before they're on the MLS. And I've done it because people just want it done that way. But then for us, we're hustling big time. We're putting up, coming soons with a picture from our cell phone. Like we're doing whatever it takes to be able to make that happen for the client. It's really not the best way to approach the whole situation.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up because there's so many moving pieces when you're on one side of the transaction to begin with. But when you're selling one property with one set of agents and one set of title and one set of lending, and then you're buying a property with a completely different set of title and agents and lending, like it's a lot to juggle. And there
Yeah,
are a lot of moving pieces on one side. But when you're doubling that, there's anything could be a hiccup. And then one hiccup causes another hiccup. And there's just a chain reaction of events that happen. So definitely working with an experienced real estate agent that can help navigate some of those waters for you and help you to keep a cool head throughout the process. As a buyer or a seller, that's something that we do in our lifetime only a couple of times. But working
right.
in this industry, we do this a lot. So we have experience, tougher skin, if you will, and we know how to navigate through some of those things. But it takes the right person to be able to keep their client, whether they're financing or on the real estate side, level-headed and cool-headed as well, and let them know, hey, I'm in charge here. I've got experience. Here's our plan, and keep everybody kind of in the same direction. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't think a lot of people think about all the nuances and all the different things that could go wrong dealing with the wrong people.
Yeah, and another big one is I can still talk, right? So another big one is that when you're doing the list, sorry, I just run on because I've been in the heat all day, so I'm all cracked
You're
out.
good.
But another thing is that when you're listing a property, as a realtor, you should be able to know who's going to move in that property. What's their income going to be? Um, you know, basically the income, the age, like you feel it when you go into a neighborhood in a community and we're not talking 55 and over, we're talking any community. There's so many HOAs through Brevard, as we know. But
Yeah.
also about listing the property and marketing it appropriately to market to those specific buyers. There's no need to throw the blanket wide when you're looking to put certain people into that home and you know exactly who those people are going to be. And then with that, also another big one is vetting out offers because you and
Mhm.
I'm sure you've seen it too. Something goes on the market and then before you know it, oh wait, what? It was under contract, but now it's back on the market again. Because if you don't take the time to call the lender and hassle them and be like, hey, did you put them through underwriting? Are we good to go? Or are we going to be in day 15 of the loan? We've been under contract now. We're not on the market technically. And then all of a sudden the deal falls through because, the person has a
Mhm.
550 credit score because that's also a reality of the situation.
For
And then
sure.
you have to, yeah. So
For sure.
there's a lot of different ins and outs and do's and don'ts with the situation and having someone that is familiar with it, who's done it several times, who really knows how to time everything. Because, like you said, if your timing isn't on point, someone's going to be homeless. It's going to
Yeah.
happen. Someone's going to be without somewhere to live.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's been so many times that I've rescued a loan from some out of state lender or just some
Yep,
unknown that did just that. They waited until they were under contract for a week or 2 weeks or God forbid 3 weeks, and then oh by the way, this came up, that came up. We need this, we need that. Credit's not where we thought it was, and that's a scary situation to be in when you're buying a house or selling a house. But it's even scarier when you have your house that's getting ready to close next week, and all of a sudden the guy buying it can no longer buy and now you can't buy this house because you had to get the net proceeds from this to buy that. And again,
exactly.
going back to what I said, this chain reaction of events happen. You've got to make sure you're working with the right people that are not just qualified, but educated and know
Hmm.
how to do this simultaneous or duplicitous transaction because there's too many moving pieces to let anything fall through the cracks.
There is. I mean, like you said, it's the lending side of it. It's simple things like put your property on the MLS. Don't
Mhm.
find the forever home and think you're going to put an offer on it. If your property is not on the MLS, no one is going to accept your offer. No one.
Right.
Because they're going to
Right.
say, "Oh, wait, you have a sale contingency, but are you on the MLS?" Well, no, not yet, but we will be. They're not. No realtor is going to. I would never look at that. for my
No.
sellers, you know?
No, of course
So there's a
not.
lot, but there's like a lot of tricks and things to cut down on time, like money sent from one title company to the other title company because everybody wants to
Mhm.
put it in their account so they can physically see it. And I get it. But at the end of the day, the title company, the last one in the whole transaction, can be the one that cuts the check to you personally for whatever your balance is going to be after you've bought the new, hopefully forever home.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that brings up another great point. You have to work with title companies that are able to wire the money from transaction A to transaction B in order to make that happen. There's been a
Yep.
couple of times where we've been ready to close, and the buyers that sold their house out of state, and we're working with a smaller title company, or maybe the bank that they use is a hometown bank, and everything kind of gets derailed because the money doesn't go as quickly as you think it's going to be. It's like they're pony expressing that money over or something.
And let's just talk real. I mean, we could talk shit, right? I can curse on here, can I? Well, I'm going to.
Absolutely.
When people come to me, they're like, I want to go to Chase. And I'm like, listen, Linda. I'm like, this is not the way to go because at the end of the day, I can't tell you how many times I've had people that wanted to use the banks. And I get it. They're there, but
Mhm.
they're not there for this, because a good local lender is the way to go and the decision to make. Because at the end of the day, you are never going to close on time if you use the big banks. Chase, Space Coast, give me a name. Oh God, there's so many of them.
There's too
There's so
many.
there's too many
TD.
lists. And then you're calling because they have a lot of red tape. Whereas, if I use
Yeah.
you, I could be like, hey, and if I can't, I can go physically find you. And I like that. I like to
Yeah.
be able to grab new people if there's a problem. If I have to drive to like Orlando or there's a flight involved, I'm not taking a flight to go reach the lender. So
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of people think if they go with a bank, they're going to get better incentives and better deals, but that's just not the case most of the time.
It's not the case. The banks are not in business to just do mortgage lending. They make most of their money from lending on car loans, from checking accounts, savings accounts, interest on credit cards. Mortgages are because they have to have it. They're required to have a certain menu, and that menu has to include mortgage loans. They don't wake up in the morning and think mortgage loans. They wake up in the morning and think financial services and credit card loans.
Right, exactly. And unfortunately, people, especially when I've had first time home buyers that purchased their first home with me.
Mhm.
So they're still a little green, they're a little wet behind the ears. They're kind of like
Sure.
looking for that guidance. And if they go to the wrong realtor, they're literally not going to get the job done correctly or on time. And when you're dealing with these contingency periods and people moving in your house and you're moving in, and let's not forget the people whose house you're buying, they're going somewhere else too. So it's this
Exactly.
little trickle effect. Like right now, I'm in the middle of a deal with 3 different people, and we're
Ah.
all contingent upon each other. And
Oh,
so
good night.
the realtors are scared, and I'm like, I've done this before. We could totally get this done, but it's all in the timing. Because if you have
Mhm.
one thing go wrong, and you have an agent who can't power through it, negotiate through it, and get to the deal to the closing table, it's a hot mess. And everybody's
Yeah,
got
for
moving
sure.
and they're crying. Yeah.
For sure. That goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. You've got to work with somebody that has the experience, that's been through this, that knows how to navigate these waters. So if you're looking to sell your house and buy another house, make sure that the real estate agent you're working with is, Jen Kane, and she knows what she's doing.
Oh, there you go. Or someone that's done this before. I
Yeah.
mean, even someone that's an agent that, there's a lot of like buyer agents I've seen out there now, and that's great. But you really do. I'm sorry, my phone's blowing up, and I don't know what's
That's
happening
all
here.
right.
But anyway, there's a lot of agents that have done a lot of single deals, single transactions, or whatever it may be. But if you don't have that experience of being able to, because remember, too, another thing, and I could go on for hours, is the appraisal. The
Mhm.
appraisers are out of their mind right now. Sorry, appraisers, if you see this. And I get it. The market's changing and they want to be really careful with their numbers. But at the end of the day, I've fought appraisals. I go on with receipts. Like if you're helping your seller sell, and if you think you're not going to go to that appraisal when they go and walk through that property, you're out of your mind. You've got to be
Mhm.
there with your own comps, your own numbers, and your own receipts. Because if you're not, the odds are they're not going to give you your number. And that's just the way it goes lately. So there's a lot of different points, a lot of different things from negotiating to appraisers and meeting with them to make sure that I'm trying to stay focused so much my phone blew up to make sure that you stay on point and get to the closing table.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, going back to working with local lending. We know the local appraisers, we work with the local appraisers. When you go with the Chase or one of these bigger banks, they're not necessarily working with the local appraisers. They're going to whoever's going to give them the best deal. So you might be having an appraiser coming from South Florida, North Florida, Central Florida, Orlando, coming to the Space Coast to appraise the house. They don't know the Space Coast. They don't know the comps. They don't know the neighborhoods. It's really not doing a fair job or giving your seller or your buyer even justice and being able to do that.
No, I agree 100%. Short story, I'll keep it short. My sellers, such wonderful people. Anyway, put the house on the market. Um, we got an offer and the appraisal came in low. And
Hmm.
I knew my number. Like I know my numbers, right? And I was like, you're oh hell no. Sorry. And I was like, that number is wrong. And I tried to fight it. The appraiser, it was through a bank. The buyers were through a bank, which I wasn't loving, but I did call and vet and make sure they were through underwriting. But long story short, they hired an out of area appraiser that came into Brevard County, didn't know this community, didn't know the comps,
Yeah,
didn't know the rate, the absorption rate, any of the things. And they brought the value down by like $40,000. So yeah, it was like a lot. It wasn't like 5,000 where I'd be like, all right, let's work accredited. No. So we literally had to turn the deal down, put it back up on the market again, went at it again, and then got, a local buyer who had a local lender, and they hired an appraiser that was, through Brevard County. I went and met them, and we got, not only did we get our number, we got 5,000 over our number.
look at that.
Yeah, that's a good point you bring up, because Samaritan area guy, you're coming in here, you don't know the ebb and flow of this market. It's like me
Exactly.
going to California and thinking I can sell some shit there. That's never going to happen. Well, I
No,
mean, it could, but I'd have to understand the market first.
no, but again, you might, every now and then even the blind squirrel gets the acorn, right? But you don't know the market. You're not going to do as good a job most likely than somebody that lives there, works there, has been there for years, or so yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's a
I
great point.
concur.
You have to work with local people.
Local people are the best people because you can reach them. I like to be able to call someone, and if I do a drive by and be like, "Hey, what's going on?" You can do that, and that's a comfort level too when you're in the middle,
Mhm.
because these transactions are big money. I don't care if it's a
Yeah.
$200,000 sale or $1 million sale. Either one, people have saved up a very long time to make this big, huge decision in their life. So you got to handle it like it's a big deal.
Exactly. This is the largest purchase that most people will ever make in their lifetime. And especially if you're a first time home buyer, like you're walking into this like deer in headlights. You don't know what's going on. It's just scary. You have all these people asking for money. You have all these numbers that are written thrown at you. It's like, what in the
Contracts,
world's going on here?
signatures. Yeah. I think I want to do a reel at one point and put all the people in the reel that it takes for a real estate transaction to get done, just to shock people.
A lot
Think
of
about
people.
it. A lot of people. A lot of
Yeah.
people. Yeah. They think it's just you. And it's like, oh, no, no. There's so many people behind me helping me get this done.
No, exactly. Yeah. There, I don't remember the exact number, but I saw a statistic when I was at a conference at the Mortgage Bankers Association years ago, and they were talking about the number of hands that touch a transaction from the moment that the home is listed until the transaction where it actually changes hands. It's like 20 different hands touching that file between the real estate agents, the appraiser, the inspector, the insurance company, all of the people in the lending side of things. I mean, it's insane.
It is insane, but it does. I mean, it's a hustle and it takes a lot of people to get it done. But if you have the right people on board, it's going to go smoothly, which is the way it
Right,
should
and we
go.
do this hundreds of times every year. So,
Yeah, and it shouldn't be stressful. Buying a home or selling a home, it's going to be a little stressful and it's emotional for people, I think. And a lot of people don't take that into account. Everybody says,
yeah.
I see these realtors, and no hate on anyone, but they'll be like, I remove the emotion out of it when I work with my client. I'm like, no, I'm all heart. Like I'm in
Mhm.
there fighting for them, negotiating for them. Like my heart's in it with every client I work with,
Yeah.
because it has
I
to be.
think you can still have emotion and skillfully negotiate. You don't have to be all business or all emotion. You can have a great mix of both.
I know, but a lot of realtors, sorry, some men I've seen are like, I just take the emotion out of it. I'm like, listen, I'm a female. We don't even know how to take emotion out of it. Everything for me is personal. That's
Right.
just how we roll. But it's better that way for the client anyway.
Yeah. And that works better for you, right? Some of these guys that feel that way, they're successful with it just being business, and it's not a relationship, it's a transaction, and I'm
Yeah.
all business. For you, you have a different approach and it works for you. So that's great.
Oh yeah, I love my people. Even when they're driving me crazy, I still love them. Yeah.
Even when they drive you crazy. See,
Even when
that's
they drive me crazy. Yeah.
yeah. So what other things do you think are important for somebody when they're thinking about selling and buying all within one transaction to consider that we haven't discussed?
Budget. So a lot of people sadly will look at the mortgage number, whether this be a first time purchase or like you said, they're selling their existing home and buying another because they
Yeah.
see the equity. And the equity build's awesome, right? I mean, if you can sell for like, not that much, you're gonna have closing costs and all the things, but
Mhm.
budget is a big one. You want to look at budget. What is that house going to cost to run that house? Because if you've lived in another house, you kind of have a ballpark figure, but people get really excited when they're going into their forever house,
Mhm.
and they see the rate and they're like, and I'm like, listen, you got a pool, that's going to cost you money. The landscaping, that's going to cost you money. It's like really be safe. I don't believe in being house poor. So I think everyone should go in there with a really great budget in mind and be able to say, okay, I can afford this home safely and be comfortable to make this transition. That's a big one for me.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
That's a great one. People don't consider the cost of home ownership. Especially if you're somebody that has rented for a period of time, whether you were renting an apartment or renting a home, you don't fully understand the cost of owning a house. So you have to make sure that the house that you're buying is within your budget. And I always tell people, like, you can go up to this point. However, I recommend that you kind of stay here. And here's why. Give them the reasons, because your income is here and technically you're qualified for there, but you have to also take into account that you might have this happen or that happen, or maybe your car is going to break down, which has nothing to do with the house, but you're going to be taking money out of the house to fix your car. And there's all sorts of things that you have to take under consideration when you're buying a house. So I
Yeah.
always err on the side of spending much less than you really probably could afford, just to make sure that when that rainy day comes, that you have that rainy day fund.
It's the truth because stuff happens. Another big one of mine too is when you're listing your home for sale, do a pre-inspection. Work with a
Mhm.
realtor to do a pre-inspection, a pre-listing inspection because it's
Right.
super. I like to understand the house before I sell it, so I want to
Yeah.
know what's wrong with it. And I've
Right.
done pre-listing inspections, and I've found all sorts of stuff.
Sure.
Foundational issues wrong. Because guess what? If you're proactive, like my whole thing with real estate is be proactive, not reactive.
Right.
Because if you gain that information about the house, I already know. Okay, we need to fix this, this, and that. But if I don't do that and you list your property without pre-listing inspection, oh my gosh, then you're in a situation with buyers where everybody's at the table kind of going back and forth with numbers. And to kind of get rid of that whole situation, just do a pre-listing inspection. Your realtor should be doing that for you. I do that because I think it's important.
Yeah.
I mean, unless it's a new build or something, but a
Sure.
lot of people call new builds, but that's another
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
then
another one,
you're also not surprised when the buyer gets their inspection with this list of, hey, these things have to be addressed. Like, going in, I either expect to hear about this or we had these things. We corrected them prior to listing. Now I don't expect these things to come up again.
right. I'm trying to think of the other one. Oh, another one is obviously capital gains. I'm not an accountant nor am I an attorney, but I will throw this out, because I've had people that I've sold to last year that want to resell. And I tell them right away, if you're a year or underneath a year, look it up, call your
Mhm.
accountant, find out if you're going to hit with a fee. Because people don't realize that either, that that's going to be something that's going to be part of the equation if you sell under a 2-year mark after owning the home.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
That's a
another big
great point. That's a
Other than
great
that,
point.
yeah, what else can I think of? Don't schedule your moving truck on the day you're closing. That's my big one.
Yeah.
Schedule for
For
the day before, get your stuff out, go stay in a nice hotel, relax for the night, go out to dinner, do something nice for yourselves, like after you've gone through all the things of packing. Because let's face it, I mean, moving is right up there with death and divorce. So it's not really fun to move.
No,
No.
I don't like to move because of the packing and unpacking.
Yeah, it's repetitive, like making your
Yeah.
bed, and getting up in the morning, food shopping, and all those other things that we have to do in life. But yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
so
I
so yeah, yeah.
appreciate you coming. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. I think we covered a lot.
We covered a ton. It was a lot of
Yeah,
great information. I was going to say, I really appreciate you coming this afternoon and talking about this because I think this is important for anybody to consider, whether you're looking to buy your first home or sell your first home and buy your next home. There's a lot of things that you need to consider. And I think you did a great job of unpacking a lot of that, Jen.
thank you. I rambled a
Yeah,
little bit, but we'll see what this looks like when it's all done.
yeah. So I ask every guest that comes on this question. I'm going to ask you this question too. What's one thing that you can think of, and it's only got, I need you to narrow it down to just one thing that you love about either living or working here on the Space Coast?
It reminds me of when I was a kid. I grew up here. So my dad owns Kane Land Surveying, and I'm originally from New York, which you hear especially when I talk fast, you can hear my New York thing come out. But I was 12 years old and lived here. My horse was out in Grant, my first horse, and he was building his company at the time. There's paper everywhere, so it reminds me of my childhood, which is why I came back here.
That's
And
awesome.
I wanted to raise my. That's why I came back. I wanted to raise my granddaughter here. I didn't want her to be raised in New York.
Yeah, I get that. That's awesome. Everybody loves living here. Everybody has memories growing up here if they grew up here and they come back. I have a buyer right now that I'm working with that grew up in Vero Beach, and he's been all over the country, but now they're getting ready to retire. And he said that he could not imagine retiring anywhere else, but right back here in Florida. So that's pretty awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Jen, I really do appreciate you taking the time this afternoon to stop in and educate us on this. And if somebody wanted to reach out to you to ask any follow-up questions or to pick your brain on anything, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can text or call 631-988-9538. And my email is jensellsfloridaFLAhomes@gmail.com.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks
Thank you.
again. And sorry?
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, of course. My pleasure. Look forward to having you on again soon to talk about something new.
Oh, I already know what I want to talk about next time. I already got it in my head.
Great. Write it down.
I will.
All right.
All right.